Why architecture?
Is there a better description of a cube than that of its construction?
Living like an old geezer. Pockets full of Charlie, sipping on Bacardi. Throwing my hoodie, I'm not rocking no Armani. I'm revving on me Harley, blonde little Barbie. Rolling on me joint, smoking like I'm Bob Marley.
The Brutalist is a movie directed by Brady Corbet, responsible for Children of a Leader and Crowded Room, released in 2024. I recently watched it and it quickly became one of my favorite movies ever. The Brutalist is an almost 4-hour journey of a film that follows Laszlo Toth, played by Adrian Brody, who is a Hungarian Jewish architect and Holocaust survivor, as he builds his life from the ground up in America. Trained at Bauhaus, a revolutionary German art and design school and once celebrated in Europe, Toth arrives in Philadelphia with nothing. He finds his talent and resilience is not enough as he struggles with alienation, addiction, and prejudice. He is eventually commissioned by an industrialist named Harrison Lee Van Buren, who is played by Guy Pearce, to design the Institute, a monumental community center that becomes both his artistic triumph and a haunting reflection of his past. The movie is less about architecture than it is about ambition, spirit, trauma, and survival. Most of all, though, it's about art and the creative experience. The cast delivers powerful performances, while Daniel Blumberg's score, Judy Becker's layered production design, Law Crawley's immersive cinematography, and the rare use of VistaVision create a monumental experience. Before I explain what this movie means to me personally, I do have to flare off some disclaimers. First and foremost, the somewhat apparent Zionist undertones in this movie do not escape me at all. My experience with this film does not hitch on this fact at all, and I do believe that Corbet could have grown some teeth and outwardly expressed the presence of Palestinians in Israel, but to my dismay, he did not. This, though, does not change the personal relationship I have with this film, because for me, it is, like I said beforehand, about art, the immigrant story, and the creative experience. I also resent the utilization of AI in this film to improve Brody's Hungarian accent, even if it's for a minuscule amount of time. However, much like The Irishman, this movie's narrative changed me and it's what I would rather talk about. Now, please enjoy this video, a delve into how The Brutalist details the importance of the immigrant story and the vitality of art.
If Peter Piper picked a pickled peppers.
Art is, and always will be, inherently political. Whether through the mediums of painting, literature, theater, music, or the two that we will mainly focus on today, architecture and cinema, art will always have a political background. That is simply how it functions. It is rooted in all of us who are human, and it is why it establishes such an effect on us. This fact is present in The Brutalist through Laszlo Toth's character and his work. Toth is an immigrant seeking the American dream, fleeing from post-World War II Europe. He is broken, yet full of hope, and all his emotions are raw and on edge. When he gets to his cousin in Philadelphia, we see him and his wife's work. It's commercial, beautiful, yes, but adapted to the American lifestyle like his cousin Attila is. Architecture is one of the purest and rawest forms of art out there. It makes it incredibly easy to make a bold statement. And brutalism itself is a perfect representation of this, and I believe Corbet connects the similar processes of cinema and architecture through Laszlo. The movie opens with a long shot of Laszlo moving through a crowd of immigrants. At first it's dark, sad, and dirty, but as he keeps moving through, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, both figuratively and literally. Unbeknownst to the viewer, Toth has just escaped a war-torn continent, ready to start a new life in the land of opportunity. He reaches the deck of the boat with glee, and there it is, the Statue of Liberty. Corbet does something I've never seen here though. The statue is upside down and sideways, never standing up straight. Much different than the popular depictions that we see in film like The Godfather. This is an inversion of the American dream motif we see in many other stories. In those, the point of view is from the Americans, shining with pride with what makes America so great, and makes the audience feel good for providing immigrants with such an amazing opportunity. In this film, we sympathize entirely with the immigrant identity and viewpoint, and we see them as exploited by the nationalist Americans and the idea of the American dream. The melting pot country that promises safety, security, and opportunity is contrasted with the reality of the way this nation chews up and spits out those who come to its shores believing what we preach. We rely on broken, desperate, and often brilliant people like Toth, coming to us for the better life we promise, and the process of assimilation we put them through, if we allow them in at all, can be one of abject abuse and erasure. When we reach Attila's store, it's filled with furniture you would see in shows set during this time period, like Mad Men. Common chairs and table pieces that are signs of Attila's assimilation. Attila reinvents himself as a myth because the truth won't sell in this newfound country of dreams. His real last name, Molnar, becomes Miller here, Hungarian heritage and culture gets erased in favor of the American. This walkthrough becomes an analogy for the entire immigrant experience, the cost of assimilation, and the loneliness of reinvention. You fit in, sure, but they won't fully accept you because deep down they know who and what you are, and that's not American. Attila's real story, the one he buried, is likely far more compelling and human than the fiction he crafted, but in America, that doesn't matter. Before I continue, it's important to mention how Courbet goes out of his way to clearly show the alienation of immigrants in American society, like their grouping of them after they get off the boat, and Laszlo's awkwardness on the train show this really well, and in a very subtle manner. This is one of my favorite shots ever, by the way. It's beautiful. Laszlo's first creation in America is drastically different than the displays you see in Attila's store. It's a metal chair connected to a table connected to 2 drawers, and there are leather bands on the back and bottom of the chair as well. It's not conventional, but it's fucking beautiful.
Not sure what to do with them is all. What do you think I should pair it with?
The conversation that Laszlo has with Attila's wife, who, if I'm not mistaken, is American, is so integral to this movie's message. Courbet builds like an architect, designs like one, and fights the same fight. He defends meaning, beauty, and soul against an elite class that understands none of it. Attila's wife says she's not sure what to do with them and asks what she should pair them with. And this expresses what art is viewed as in America, a means to commercial success. Why does she feel the need to do something with the piece rather than enjoy the experience and the piece for what it is? Why does it need to be paired with something commercial to be viewed as profitable? Attila's wife is also shown to have a clear disdain for immigrants, specifically Laszlo, for whatever reason. The Brutalist knows what it means to make something beautiful in a system that only values what can be sold. Courbet and Laszlo are both visionary builders, speaking the language of meaning to people who only understand money. Whether it's a community center or a film like The Brutalist, they're pitching art to people who want ROI. They're speaking poetry to spreadsheets. The film makes this explicit. Laszlo designs with intent. His choices are driven by empathy, texture, nuance, and a story. He doesn't want to perform well, he wants it to mean something. But that's not how America works. And it's this central tension, the artist versus the financier, which is a struggle painted throughout the whole film, and is especially prevalent between Laszlo and the Van Burens. Attila and Laszlo are tasked with remodeling a library as a surprise gift for Harry Van Buren's father, Harrison. When they reach the property for an estimate for the installment, as well as the actual process of the installment, Laszlo is more concerned with the beauty and soul of the remodel, while Harry is more focused on the financial side, asking them to try to keep it under $1,000. But Laszlo counters, knowing that the scale of this remodel is at least $2,000. A thing about Laszlo that really pulled me into the story was how determined he is to achieve his vision, how gruesomely bothered he is by interruptions of that vision. In the process of building the library, he says, "Perfect, it would be beautiful." Despite some mishaps like dropping the glass overhead while replacing it, the library truly does turn out to be breathtakingly beautiful. Now, obviously, I know next to nothing about architecture. I am not an expert whatsoever, but this project is a perfect example of how an artist's life and experiences will always, even unintentionally, bleed through their art. This is why understanding Laszlo and his life is so crucial for appreciating his art. There is a mystical glee about the library, made under the naive belief that everything will be okay here. It's not conventional, but it is modern, and much like the scene of Attila and Laszlo standing inside of it, light shines through the project. It is fantastic. It's the accumulation of joy and skill, accompanied with the gay that a new beginning brings. When the embodiment of ruthless capitalist, Harrison Van Buren, discovers the library, he is extraordinarily upset. Harrison erupts in anger and refuses to pay Laszlo and Attila. An obvious metaphor for how capitalism can stomp on artistic vision. However, I think the more important reaction in this scene is the differing reactions of Laszlo and Attila's reaction to his tantrum. Laszlo calmly lights a cigarette and says, "Our work here is finished," while Attila is much more obviously raving underneath his calm demeanor. Pure artistic vision in comparison with capitalistic indoctrination of that same vision. Now, do not get me wrong, anybody can and will definitely be upset about doing work and not getting paid. That's just how it is. To Laszlo, though, the payment is not the motivation, but the ability to create and make something that will last. And that is, to me, the benefit of artistry. Art is almost always immortal. As one of my favorite artists and writers, Craig Thompson, says, "How satisfying it is to leave a mark on a blank surface, no matter how temporary." This eruption in Attila's wife hating immigrants so much she falsely accuses Laszlo of raping her basically sends him down the shittiest path. He works a shitty laboring job and is addicted to heroin. A motif that is very, very common throughout the film, but I'm not here to talk about that. But the American dream is not done with Laszlo, as it aims to chew him up and spit him out again. Harrison visits him while at his laboring job. After initially not caring or appreciating Laszlo's work, later he sees it acclaimed in a magazine, and he takes a sudden interest. When the system views something that can be monetized, used for a commercial benefit, that is when it is important. It becomes something worthy of its own creation. During this conversation, we get a look at Laszlo's old art, and his reaction to it is just so radiant. He is exhilarated that the photos still exist and is still so proud of his work. He's invited to see it again during a party celebrating Van Buren, and does. And this is where the movie really grabbed me. Van Buren, after telling a story of his own that I will not get into, asks Laszlo why he chose architecture.
Is there a better description of a cube than that of its construction?
The cube, the building, the self, everything has a backstory. Art is the mirror to soul, and it is exactly why our lives matter so much. Beyond that, it is the evidence that to define oneself with labels and words is a limitation. You are not responsible for defining yourself. It is your sole responsibility to live in a way that is honest to you. We exist in a deep involvement with our surroundings. We don't have to abide by the definitions of the things we do. Words such as artist or chef or architect or even YouTuber. The human soul does not require boundaries. It simply requires authenticity. We create our own definition. So, what definition of a cube or a soul is better than that of its own construction? Harrison is on the other side of this. He represents the corporate class. He funds things. He controls things. He extracts value like a resource that has to be mined. But he cannot create. He cannot understand why the resource he mines matters. He wants to be close to genius and wants to own it, contain it, be credited by his proximity to it, but he doesn't speak the language. He tells stories about himself that center his power. He can commission art as much as he wants, but he'll never truly understand it. That's what makes Laszlo dangerous and why he must be subdued, belittled, and destroyed. Harrison, in front of everyone, almost in a show-like manner, commissions Laszlo to build a community center for Doylestown. Fast forwarding a bit to save my time and yours, Harrison is detailing things he envisions for the center. In his details though, he is unable to see the community aspect he so deeply wants to implement. He brings up ideas he has personal ties to, like a gym or a theater. However, when Laszlo suggests a swimming pool, his reason for not wanting it is, I don't know how to swim. He's incapable of seeing things past his personal experiences, and that is why he sees the world the way he does, a chessboard that he can control. This idea shows up again when Harry says the local and state governments will provide limitless funding as long as they designate a part for a Christian congregation. Laszlo responds saying it's a community room for all people, but these people don't care. Community is disregarded for representation. Laszlo sees the world in gradients, in complexity, in softness, and that view carries directly into his architectural philosophy. Laszlo pitches his vision for the community center. Leslie, the contractor, insists on using marble shipped from Talladega, the kind that's white like a sheet of paper, as Laszlo puts it. It's a clean, unblemished material, perfect for statements of control, purity, and prestige, but Laszlo pushes back gently. Concrete. It's more textured, more complex, more human. Even after Harrison sides with Leslie in one of the many small knife twists that artists endure during the death by negotiation process, Laszlo does not fold. He offers a source from Italy, and when he and Harrison visit the quarry, the moment is reverent, sacred. The marble isn't just material, it's history, craft, labor, meaning. It's not simply concrete versus marble. It's not about one being better. It's about what they symbolize to each person. Harrison wants white marble, glossy, obvious, big statement, architecture that performs success. Something expensive that says everything he wants to without it requiring any type of thought. Laszlo wants something else. He wants material that carries memory, concrete that holds the weight of labor, marble that's not just pretty but connected to people who cut it. That's the difference. One man sees surface, the other sees what's beneath the surface. Because to Laszlo, beauty lives in variation. Meaning lives in margins. There is no black and white. The important spaces are in the gray. The thing worth noticing is almost never the thing screaming to be seen, and that's what separates him from not just Harrison, but any American obsessed with flattening everything into something sellable. The second half of the film, unfortunately, is a tale as old as time. Exploitation by the upper class of the proletariat. Laszlo's wife and niece immigrate to America with Harrison's help, and Laszlo is still treated less than human despite having more heart than anyone at the table. In a truly uncomfortable scene near the end of the movie, Harrison, drunk out of his mind, rapes Laszlo on their trip. On my first watch, this scene was incredibly out of place and uncomfortable, but in hindsight, it is a gruesome metaphor for how the American dream affects immigrants. The least that Harrison takes all Laszlo is and tries to diminish it and establish dominance over Laszlo. He calls his culture deplorable and responsible for the horrible things that happen to them. He decries them for their desperateness in the face of the Holocaust while asking Laszlo to build his legacy. He is jealousness in the purest form. Everyone in this film assumed that the oppressed were mere beggars, hoping to have a silver of kindness thrown their way, only to discover not only were these immigrants incredibly well educated, complex, fully fleshed out real human beings, but beings who could take from them, or being something that they would never amount to, all while having an emotionally strong resolve to overcome horrific odds such as the war and the Holocaust that they just never would have. In the end, it's not Laszlo who destroys the financier class, it's Elizabeth. Not with money, with truth, with rage. She walks into their dinner party and calls everyone out to their face with truth, and it pierces their family fatally. Their whole facade is shattered by this woman who's been through more than anyone in that family has, who herself has been shattered by the devastation of war physically and emotionally. She becomes living proof of what Harrison and his family can never manufacture, and shows how weak they really are. Now, even though this happens, the Van Burens in the American Dream work its evil magic into the final scene of the film. Laszlo is 80 years old, his work is celebrated, and a speech is given by his niece, but she says something that is deeply, deeply disturbing.
No matter what the authors try and sell you, it is the destination, not the journey.
This ending to me is proof that American indoctrination can sometimes win. Zofia is properly assimilated in the mindset, preaching words that completely contradict Laszlo's strong words early in the film. It's sad, but weirdly hopeful at the same time. On the bright side, Laszlo is celebrated and his art will indeed live forever. So let me tell you, no matter what anyone tries to tell you, it is the journey, not the destination. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any notes or anything, I would love to know, so please comment down below, and have a great day.